Hey guys, more Torcus here. So in this video we're going to be checking out Lissandra, the new champion for Freljord in the upcoming Empires of the Ascended expansion. She's looking really cool, so let's hop right in and check out what's going on with her. So she is a 3-mana tough unit with 2/3 stats, and when I'm summoned, summon a Frozen Thrall. Frozen Thrall is a landmark, which is 1 mana, countdown 8, very long, and summon a Frostguard Thrall, which is an 8 mana, 8/8 overwhelm. Definitely a good payoff, that is for sure, but you are getting a 8-turn countdown from a 3-mana card. So, is that ever going to go off? Not for a long time. Not till turn 11. Not till turn 11 if you play this on turn 3. So that's not a huge upside to her being summoned. If anything, it's maybe taking up a board slot you might have wanted to have. Luckily, you're probably not playing a super wide board strat with Lissandra, as we'll see. But her her level up effect is you've summoned 2+ allies that cost 8+. When I level up, create a Watcher in hand. The Watcher is quite a card. 17 mana, 11/17. If I cost 0 if you've summoned 4+ allies that cost 8+ this game. So it goes from 17 mana, which is unplayable, to 0 mana, which is very playable. And then attack, obliterate the enemy deck. I don't know if there's anything that could be more crazy than that. That is some crazy stats, and it's obliterating a deck. It's definitely not going to die to any damage-based removal, that's for sure. So the idea with her is clearly you're getting these 8-cost things, and that's going to be your game plan. When she is leveled up, though, your Nexus gets tough, and your round start, you get a fleeting Ice Shard in hand that is 0 cost. So, Ice Shard is a 3-mana deal 1 to everything at fast speed. We're actually getting some fast speed Freljord cards, which is certainly not something that we've had before, which is pretty sweet. Funny that that's been the case. But, yeah, the Nexus being tough, probably not going to matter as much as you'd think, just because her level up is not happening until you're at 8 mana at least. You can't do any sort of discount stuff. The way the game works, things do have to be played for the mana that they cost, or else they don't technically cost that much. Like, a discounted thing going to 0 mana is a 0-cost card. It is not a whatever cost card that it initially was. So, turn 8+, you're having this tough Nexus. It at least stops your opponent from finishing you off with a flurry of damage from like spells and such like that. As long as you make it to this point, you'll have a much easier time surviving. Lissandra also has the tough, so she'll be a little hard to kill, but if she does die, the Nexus stops being tough. And the fleeting Ice Shard does have good synergy with all this toughness, because it won't hurt Lissandra, it won't hurt your Nexus, but it will hurt your opponent's Nexus and their units, which is definitely nice. So that's a cool thing that you're getting per turn, but that's really not what Lissandra's main focus is. Her focus is this Watcher game plan. You're going to be able to do some stuff with Frozen Thralls, potentially, to level her up, but I think the main idea would be with Trundle and his Ice Pillar, because you're playing it for 8, but you're refunding all the mana, so it really costs 0 in the results. And if you can duplicate Ice Pillar with stuff like Fading Memories to try and level her up faster, that works really, really well. And then once you get this Watcher, the Watcher can just end the game, because once your opponent's deck is obliterated, the game's over. They can't draw, and when they can't draw, they lose the game. You have they have till the end of the turn for the game to end by then. So you do get one copy. You get one copy of the Watcher, only on the level up. You don't have to play her until she's leveled up, because, turn 3, it might be hard to keep her on board if you play her on turn 3. But if you wait till you've already played your 8-cost stuff, that's much more consistent. Much more likely to work out for you. But yeah, you get the one copy of the Watcher, and it has to go off, or else, you lose your chance. If they Vengeance it, it's gone forever. If they Ruination it, it's gone forever. If they stun it, they get some extra time before you actually get your attack off to do the big obliteration on their deck. There's actually quite a few ways to make you be annoyed at not being able to get this to do what you want it to do. But if you do want to get around hard removal and stuff, there is this sweet idea where you can do Spectral Matron. It does help towards the discount, so you can try and make it cost 0 with the Spectral Matron. But in addition to that, you can use the Spectral Matron on it, and you're getting an ephemeral copy, thereby giving you 2 chances at doing it. Fading Memories also gives you more chances, potentially, after you do have a 0-cost copy of it. But being able to do Spectral Matron, getting that Spectral Matron body, and then getting this Watcher, which your opponent's going to have to do a lot to stop it from doing what it wants to do. And then you still have another one in hand after that. So that's really, really good. So, once this happens, you'll have won the game. All this other stuff around the Frozen Thrall things and everything won't really end up mattering. So this will probably end up being paired with Shadow Wilds for a full control deck, doing Trundle, trying to get it out as fast as possible, do the Watcher, end the game there and then. But I could also see, Lissandra being run in a less, hard committal stuff like that. You could play her with Talia, get the Frozen Thrall. You can use it with the card that destroys landmarks and get, a 5/4 off of it, since you probably don't think it's going to pop. Or down the line, maybe you do get it off with that. But if you are duplicating these Frozen Thralls and then popping them with this other card we got down here, Draculorn Inquisitor, you're opening them up 4 turns ahead of time, then there could be some cool synergy there between Talia and Lissandra for lots of big 8/8s and stuff like that. But then in that case, your 8/8s are more of the game plan. The Watcher's more of a backup game plan in that situation. And it's entirely fine for that to be the case. You can go all in on the Watcher, or you can have it be a secondary thing. If that Frozen Thrall thing is what you really want to get out of it. And this whole tough thing, clearing everything out, is definitely not bad either, to try and keep your opponent, keep them down, keep them controlled. So I think Lissandra's going to be pretty sweet. The whole ramp game plan is already really good in Freljord, or has been in the past. And I think it won't be too hard for you to create a pretty solid Shadow Wilds deck that does get this level up off very quickly, and the Watcher down on the board pretty fast. I think the whole meta is going to have to accelerate a lot for a ton of these like big ending game plays that are going to be happening. But you will definitely have to keep in mind the removal that your opponent has to make sure your Watcher doesn't end up whiffing. But at least even then, if it does whiff, the Frozen Thrall thing is still there, and Lissandra is still like an infinite engine of ice shards, which is nice. Then we have Lissandra's Champ spell, which is Entomb. This is a 5 mana, basically a version of the Ancient Hourglass. It is 5 mana instead of 2, but it lets you hit your opponent's unit, obliterate a unit, and summon the Frozen 2 minutes place. And the Frozen Tomb is slightly different than the Stasis Statue because it is a countdown 2 landmark. And then it brings it back exactly as it was because it's just been held in stasis in there the entire time. So pretty sweet, pretty sweet. It's a bit expensive in my opinion. You can keep them in the Entomb for 2 turns, but like the countdown goes off at the start of the round, so they're done in there for the whole turn that you played it and the whole turn after that. But it's their next turn, like the 2 turns after, they will be popping out at the start of the round. So if you use this to stop an attack, then they'll be back in time for their next attack. And that means that you're not really stalling them that hard. You're only stopping 1 attack, which, it helps you in that they can't block an attack with that unit. But that's not going to be super relevant in most cases. And you can also use it as another form of Ancient Hourglass, but again, it's not that great. It is 3 mana more expensive, and you get your champion back 2 turns later, which in most cases is going to be bad, unless there's like a Ruination setup that you're having happen to you, and then you're happy to be protected for 1 extra turn. But overall, it's a bit expensive for what it does. The flexibility over Ancient Hourglass is not necessarily worth it. I know it's in a different region, so you don't have access to Ancient Hourglass if you're not in Shurima. But I don't necessarily think you're going to be running this in your deck. And but we're going to see there is another way to get it. And you're going to have it off Lissandra, which sometimes you're going to want to use it. In that case, it's not going to be a terrible champ spell when you do have 2 Lissandras for sure. Then we have Draklorn Inquisitor. So as I was mentioning this is a 5 mana 4/5. When I'm summoned, summon a Frozen Thrall. Again, Frozen Thrall being played on 5 really doesn't matter. It's probably best in the Talia deck where you're munching with your 4-drop to get a 5/4 off of that Frozen Thrall, because otherwise, best case scenario, you're waiting till turn 9 for another Draklorn Inquisitor to be popping it. Definitely doesn't seem very relevant in that case. So, all these extra landmarks aren't going to really matter in the long term. But he does have the round end effect. If the countdown of any of your Frozen Thralls is 4 or less, advance them to 0. So like this one's not going to be affected by this, the one he summons. But ones you play on turn 1 definitely will, because you can run it in the deck. It is a common card. It is runnable in the deck. And that's likely what you're going to want to do, because you're getting a 4/5, and then round end you're getting an 8/8 Overwhelm. And you only played 1 mana on turn 1 for that situation. It's a lot of stats to have on turn 5, I gotta say. You don't get to attack with it that turn, but it's still pretty sweet, especially if you attack on evens. This will be guaranteed vital to the Lissandra game plan, in my opinion. I mean, it's possible that you don't do anything with the Frozen Thralls. Maybe it's not going to be how you intend to level Lissandra, but it does get you 8 cost stuff much earlier than even the Trundle thing. And the Trundle thing is just a little extra to get you all the way there. So, I mean, there's no guarantee that the Frozen Thrall thing is going to happen. But I think we'll definitely be trying it. But yeah, I think there's a non-0% chance that Lissandra does do a deck without Frozen Thrall support off of this guy. But it's probably more likely that you do try to get 8/8s on turn 5, because why not, right? Pretty nice synergy on that front. Although, I guess there's also, you could be ramping and then maybe the mana that you play him on isn't exactly turn 5 or whatever, but yeah, he seems pretty good. He seems pretty good. Ice Shard, 3 mana, deal 1 to everything at fast speed. It's nice to have something like this in Freljord. We didn't have it before. Your second region might already have stuff like this, but it's at least nice that you can not have to go into regions that have access to stuff like this to do this. It's a bit expensive for what it does. It's pretty comparable to the Death Lotus in Noxus, but it hits everything instead of just the in-combat stuff. Does go to the Nexus, which is good and bad. Is not necessarily great for everything. It does work pretty well with the self-damage archetype as well, and that hits all of your units for that, but that's something you normally ran Death Lotus for anyway, so maybe not exactly a better inclusion than that. But it does hit the bench, and hitting the bench can sometimes help you a lot against certain aggro stuff. Maybe even like being able to do this when you're not even on a combat turn, where your opponent's not on the attack token. But more often, you're going to just be using this off of Lissandra. I'm not entirely certain that you'll be running this in your deck, but I think it will probably make it into some form of Freljord control. And I could definitely see it fitting into the self-damage archetype at some quantity, if that ends up being a thing. It hasn't really worked so far. We're getting a little bit more support for it here, but beyond that, it's decent. It's decent. Then we have 3 Sisters, 1 mana burst speed spell, create a fleeting flash freeze, Fury of the North, or Entomb in hand. It's very flexible. Flash freeze is a very good card. Fury of the North, you know, it was amazing. It got nerfed. Doesn't see very much play now, but it's still pretty good. And as we said, Entomb isn't the best thing ever, but it does have some cool applications. Paying 1 for the choice and flexibility is going to be very relevant in some decks, especially as the game goes on and you have access to enough mana to play any one of these, and the 1 mana isn't going to matter to you as much. I think this looks great. Most cases, you're probably going to pick Flash Freeze or Fury, but Entomb will pop up sometimes in certain situations. Even if it is a big mana commitment, you might want to, like, it might be exactly what you need for the situation. There might be some decks where you'd rather just run Flash Freeze Although you can run this and run Flash Freeze and still get away with that too. Just because if you have enough freezes already, you do have Fury off of this as well. Ash Sedge is a deck that I can think of where both the Flash Freeze and the Fury have a big impact because it is a mid-range deck. The freezes are great, and the Fury is also very useful. So it might make sense in Ash Sedge, and yeah, in slower controlier type decks, you might want this instead of Flash Freeze sometimes, or in addition to it in some quantity or another. But if there really is a situation where you're not needing the Entomb or the Fury like enough, and you only care about the Flash Freeze, then you might not end up running it. But we'll see. We'll see. I think it seems pretty solid. Cold Resistance. 5 mana burst speed, get a mana gem, and grant an ally +2 health. Catalyst is the same thing, but you heal your Nexus for 3. This one you use on your ally. You don't need an ally, I don't believe. It doesn't say grant an ally +2 health to get an empty mana gem. So you should be able to just play it whenever, and you know, if there is an ally, you can give them the stuff. I think in most cases you'd rather have Catalyst, and it's hard to run all of them. Like, I don't think you'd ever run 3 of each, or like even a combination or whatnot. I think generally you just want Catalyst instead. You don't want your hand full of useless 5 mana spells, that's for sure. And I don't see a huge reason to pick this over Catalyst. Like, I guess if you're playing a like ramping a deck where you kind of want to ramp a little bit, but it's more board centric, minion centric, more of a slightly high leaning mana curved mid-range deck, you'd want to do this. But generally speaking, I think Catalyst is going to be much, much better than this. You're just going to rather have the health, the healing on your Nexus. The health on your unit is normally going to not make sense. You can use this with Taric, but I don't think that matters. I don't think you're using Taric just so you can get an extra ramp when you're committing so much to it. And why is Taric in the deck? What other real upsides do you have for Taric being in the deck? I may be crazy. There may be some ridiculous idea out there that I can't think of. But I don't think there is. I think this is just going to be worse than Catalyst 99% of the time. And the last cards we have here are the landmarks. We got the Frozen Thrall. We already talked about Frozen Thrall to death. You can play this on 1, and if you do the Draklorn Inquisitor, you get it out early. Other than that, it's turn 9. That's too late. Too late for it to matter. If you play it any later than that, it's going to do absolutely nothing. So, that's going to be like its big thing. It definitely makes me feel like you want to play... If you're going to do the Frozen Thrall thing, you probably will want to play the Talia stuff and the Shurima stuff, just so that you can just turn them into Rock Bears when you don't have your Inquisitors around. And or if you draw them too late and you really need them to do something instead of just being absolutely useless. Because that is a huge downside, drawing it any later than turn 1. So, yeah, it's It's tough. It's tough. The frozen thrall thing is going to be definitely a very awkward idea, but when it works, it's going to work real good. And we have Blighted Ravine, 4 mana landmark. When I'm summoned, heal your Nexus 4, countdown 1, deal 2 to everything. So this is basically Avalanche, but it's on a timer, which has upsides and downsides. The healing is also nice. You get effectively 2 healing because you are dealing 2 to your Nexus after it goes off. But, you know, maybe the immediate healing is relevant in some cases because you're still going to go and heal another way too, perhaps. But Avalanche is great for clearing out aggressive boards, but if you play a lot of Freljord into discard aggro and stuff, there's going to be this tension where they're waiting for you to play Avalanche, and you're waiting for them to develop. And then once you play Avalanche, they will redevelop their entire board. And if they already have enough on board, they can risk that. Then they will. They'll just not bother developing because they know they already have enough to pressure you with their board, and you need to play greedy, or else they will be able to just refill, and it won't. Your Avalanche will have had basically no impact overall. So this being a absolute opposite, where it means that you don't have to play the Avalanche, you can just wait, and your opponent cannot develop into their open attack. They will get cleared the second the round flips over. When they are ready for their open attack, you will have gotten rid of their 2 health stuff. So, you know, running some Avalanche and some Blighted Ravine would probably make a lot of sense. You can punish their development or punish their passes. This would be, you know, punishing them passing into their open attack with the board they already have. So I really like it. I think this and Avalanche both have their own niche, and they both fit well into the Freljord control. And I think you'll definitely be seeing this out there. This might actually be stronger than Avalanche just because it really does have that huge, like, clear out their open attack thing, which is really, really nice. Even though it is a landmark and it does require unit mana, which means that you can't use spell mana like Avalanche can. So that's going to be it for this video. Lissandra seems really cool. I'm excited to play with her. So please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Comment down below what you think of Lissandra and the new cards that are coming out alongside her. And please subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content in the future. And I'll see you guys in the next